guys, it's Di, and today I wanted to talk about visiting the most magical place on earth while we are in the middle of weathering a pandemic. So this is something that we did not decide to do lightly. We've actually been kind of waiting and debating and kind of taking in as much information as possible. But we did end up deciding to book a trip to visit Walt Disney World in October. We're going to go over our fall break. And so there were a number of factors that went into our decision. So I wanted to share some of those today in case it can be helpful for you. I also wanted to share some of the things that we learned after going on our last kind of mini road trip to go up to my mom's house in Illinois and how we'll adapt that to go down to Florida, and also kind of share some helpful things like they just released a package for people that are in certain states right around Florida, Alabama being one of them. So we took advantage of that package to get a little bit of a discount rate to go right now as well. So we have been waiting and debating for quite some time. We kind of wanted to get school started and see how virtual school was going to go. We have pretty much been at home since March and trying to take things as seriously as possible. Both my job has been at home and my husband's job is at home indefinitely as well. The kids have been home from school and now they're enrolled in virtual school. So we do have the ability to quarantine for 2 weeks beforehand and 2 weeks afterwards and not be around like a large group of people before we go anywhere on a trip like this. So we did do that when we went up to my mom's house at the beginning of the summer, and we'll plan to do that when we go to Disney World as well. And so I think that's just kind of extra peace of mind, just knowing that we're able to do that and feel like we're being a little bit more safe about it. Also, if you guys remember when we went in February, we flew. We will not be flying this time. We'll be road tripping down there to go to Florida and trying to take some of the things that we learned after going on the road trip up to Illinois and applying some of those. So having pre-planned stops where we can go and feel like we have found certain places, especially like larger truck stop type of places that we feel like will be kind of cleaned more thoroughly, more often, rather than just picking random side of the road, not really knowing what we're getting off and getting into type of places. We felt like that really helped on the way up to Illinois. So that's what we're planning on going to do when we go to Florida as well. I'm also going to order plenty of masks to have on hand. From everything that I've seen online, from trip reports of people that have gone recently, having a number of disposable masks on hand is really helpful, a few for each day at least. So I'll make sure that we bring plenty of supplies, disposable masks. We'll have some cloth masks as well, although we do prefer the disposables, and especially for a trip like this, having enough of those on hand. Plenty of hand sanitizer. We'll even have gloves with this, which we don't really normally use in our daily lives right now, but going to gas stations and things like that, just be an added precaution that we can use the glove when we get to gas and then just pull off the glove and dispose of it in a bin. That's the big thing with this whole thing, is if you're using disposable items, you want to make sure they're not cluttering up the earth while you're trying to keep yourself and others safe. But some of those things I think will help. I've also been sitting back and watching the procedures that Walt Disney World has in place, and they have temperature checks before you go into the different theme parks, when you go to the resorts, going to restaurants. And so some of those things are in place. Masks are of course required. I feel like they're taking it very seriously and trying to put as many precautions in place to keep their employees safe, but also visitors as well. So we didn't come to the decision lightly. We definitely did a lot of debating back and forth over deciding what we were gonna do. If you remember me talking about it, I originally had thought before any of this started that we would maybe in October go on a Halloween Disney cruise, which that's not happening, and then possibly go to Disney World for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, that's not happening, and do a few days of both. So obviously our plans changed. We kind of waited to get school started, kind of see how things were going in the environment, also watching to see, any changes that would arise. And so we felt pretty comfortable now, about a month or so out, to say, okay, I think that we're comfortable to go and road trip, get inside the bubble, and then just stay inside the Disney bubble, and then just try to be as cautious as possible. So it is going to be a different trip. We're not under any illusion that it's going to be like any trip that we've done before, but I think it's going to be a very interesting trip, and we'll of course share what we learn as we go along. So I did the same thing that I always do, where I plan out our trip day by day. It was very helpful to do that before I actually booked our trip, because obviously with Disney planning, a number of things have changed. So when you go onto the website, you can see everything that's open and not open, resort-wise, restaurant-wise. And I highly recommend, if you're thinking about doing a trip, to spend some time looking around on the website and seeing what's open, reading all the precautions that they have on there, just so you know what the current procedures are. So I went through and I looked at, for the specific offer that we're taking advantage of for Alabama residents, I went through and I saw what resorts were a part of it, looked at all the prices for it. It was a little bit better than some of the other promotions that were out right now. And we were really kind of debating where to stay. So we really liked being near the Skyliner. And we had stayed at Caribbean Beach, obviously, a number of times before. We loved being right there by the Skyliner on that one day coming back off the cruise in February. So when I started this, I was kind of leaning heavily towards doing that again. There's also some places like the Contemporary right now has a very, very good price. Like if you've ever wanted to stay at the Contemporary, it was not that much more expensive than some of the moderates. And then some of the other ones that were open are ones that we have stayed at before or had considered staying at. But there was one place that kind of stood out that would also make it a very economical option, and it's some place that I felt like if we were going to try it, this was probably the trip to try it, because I know that people speak very highly of it. It's like a favorite place that people stay, and I have to get a little drink. So, and it's some place that a lot of people, like, it's like their favorite place to stay. So I felt like this was someplace we eventually needed to try, and under the circumstances, it would make this not only an economical trip, but also give us a good idea of what this resort has to offer. So we actually ended up booking our trip for Pop Century, which if you guys have watched my trip kind of resort videos before, you know that I'm really kind of torn on this one because I know it's a favorite for a lot of people. And I want to see what they're talking about, but at the same time, I feel like the theming of other resorts is really a lot better fit for us. So we're doing this as kind of a quick trip getaway, so I thought that this would be a good time to try it out, be able to check it off the list, say that we've done it, and be able to compare it to a number of the other resorts that we've stayed at. So we've stayed at All Star Movies, we've stayed at All Star Music, we've stayed at Art of Animation, which we loved Art of Animation. It's obviously in that same area. The Skyliner is there now. So I really want to go, I want to give it its fair shot, and I want to see what it's like. So I will report back on what I think. Obviously, you guys know the different resorts that we stayed at. We were just at the Riviera and Caribbean Beach in February. So this will be a different type of trip all around. So I felt like this was the right trip to do it. It's also a little bit less money invested in the trip should anything arise and we have to change something or cancel at the last minute. It's obviously, for those reasons, a good choice as well. So planning out a trip ahead of time was very helpful because when you book online, you book your trip now. Dining plans are not available currently. And you make your pick for your resort if you're going to get tickets and those things. And then after you check out, it takes you to a screen to do your park day reservations. To me, this felt very natural. I actually kind of like this. I know that people are kind of torn on this, but I always plan out what day we're going to go to which park anyways. So I just looked at my calendar and I went, okay, I know I'm going to Animal Kingdom this day, and I put it on there and got the park reservation. We had no problems getting park reservations for the different days. It does have it divided from like annual pass holders to resort guests. We were staying on site, so I'm not sure if it would be different for a different category, but for us, the whole month of October was available for resort guests. There was no problems there. We did end up deciding that we're only doing 3 park days, so I'll get into that. The first day we're going to go to Animal Kingdom. It's one of our family's favorite. It's just kind of a chill, nice, laid back. Another thing is that the park times are a little bit less than they normally would be. So Animal Kingdom's open 9 to 5 and we're going to be there. So I kind of actually like this. It's going to be like kind of a cool vibe. Like we can go into the parks, hang out, chill, then go out and eat dinner like at Disney Springs or whatever. And it's not like this stressful, like we have to close the parks down until 10 p.m. type of trip. It's definitely going to be a very, very different trip. So the next day we're going to Hollywood Studios. I think this should be an interesting trip because fast passes are no more. So we have to almost kind of learn this whole new way of planning Disney now. And so I think it's going to be interesting to try to get reservations where you have to get into the park at a certain time and do it on your phone through My Disney Experience is going to be very important. Getting reservations for Rise of the Resistance. So that's something we've not had to try to do yet, so we'll be trying to do that on this trip and just making the most out of a day at Hollywood Studios. We are going to do a day off this time. So we're maybe going to go play some putt-putt, mini golf, have some time at the pool, hang out at the resort, go to Disney Springs to eat dinner, and just kind of have an off day. So this is something that we have not always done, except for I think one trip we went to Animal Kingdom, we did that. But it's just kind of a nice break in the middle of the week. And since we're driving and that's kind of going to be exhausting on either end of the trip, we thought this would be good to build it in towards the end of the trip to get a rest day. We are going to eat at Sauna for lunch that day. I also did our dining reservations, and that's the other thing that we're doing other than Sauna, because we've eaten there before. We really love their lunch. We are going to try some new restaurants that we've never eaten at. So I'll get into those too. And then our last day is at Magic Kingdom. And of course, I feel like you have to go to Magic Kingdom when you go to Walt Disney World. So that day I got us a Tony's reservation for dinner, and we've never eaten there. It's just kind of tucked out of the way, and it's kind of right up in the front of the park. So I think we just kind of forget that it's there, but it's Italian food, and my husband really loves Italian food. So I'm very interested to try that. So Magic Kingdom actually closes at 6 p.m. that night. So we have reservations kind of close to that closing time, and so hopefully it should make it a little bit more chill to get out of the park, where we're just going and eating dinner and kind of miss whatever rush there is to leave the park at closing time, and then just go about the rest of our evening. So it's definitely going to be different in a lot of respects. There's going to be different precautions in place. We'll of course be wearing masks the whole time. The crowd levels, I'm sure, will be noticeably different from when we normally go, and the times will be different. There'll also be no parades and no fireworks, which we're okay with that, but as you all know, we've been a number of times, so we're okay on giving on those things to be able to go and just kind of have some relaxing family time while we can still social distance and you know, try to do our best to sanitize and all those things as well. So that's kind of the plan at this point. It should be an interesting time. We'll of course report back on what we learn while we're there. But we did do quite a bit of research and quite a bit of deliberating on what we wanted to do. But in the end, we decided that it was important to us for a few different reasons. One, getting out of the house and just the mental health aspect. We do kind of feel like the pandemic may get worse before it gets better. So kind of how like when we went to visit my mom, we felt like if we were going to do this, we need to go do it now and then kind of get back in the house and set up at home before flu and cold season kind of kicks up all the way, and see how that goes. But then also, you know, supporting these places that are important to us, if it was within our abilities to do so, was important as well. So that's the plan. Penguin will be at the boarding place while we're gone and having his own little doggy vacation. And so it should be a very interesting time. So we'll be taking you along in vlogs, and let me know if you have any questions along the way. If you've been planning your own Disney trip as well, we can kind of share tips back and forth and that sort of thing, because it really truly is a whole new Disney planning experience, because fast passes are gone, some resorts are not open, some character dining experiences are not open, dining experiences in general, some of them are not open. So it really is different, and you have to research what's open and available during the time you're looking at going. And some of the things I'm very interested in seeing, like the character kind of pop-up experiences, I'm actually really excited to see that. So you can just be walking through Magic Kingdom and all of a sudden a random character float goes by, or you're in Animal Kingdom and a random like riverboat goes by with characters on it waving. So I think stuff like that should be really neat and interesting. We've had a lot of different experiences at Walt Disney World, and it's obviously a special place for our family. It's just a nice place for us to go and relax and unwind. And I think that's what this trip is going to be. We're not going to be pushing ourselves to get from Fast Pass to Fast Pass, because obviously that's not a thing right now. We're just going to go enjoy what we can, hopefully have some good food, and just have some time to unwind and get out of our space and go do things as a family that aren't focused on getting virtual work done and things like that. So I think it's going to be a much needed perspective change and I'm ready for it. So it's not gonna be without its challenges, I'm sure. We're gonna have to get there, first of all, and that whole thing, and obviously have plenty of supplies on hand, but I'll share that as we go along and anything that we learn as well. So hopefully you guys are having a great day. Thanks for watching, and we'll be taking you along on our experience as we go. Have a great day.